has been a super long time, and that's because we've been working on the content in your textbook. But the last of our 6 problems is your corporate income statement. A little bit different, obviously, than our other 2 statements we learned, and we did learn 2 other income statements. We learned your basic income statement back in probably chapter 1 or 2 of Accounting 101. We learned a multi-step income statement, which was breaking everything down for a sole proprietorship. Here, what we're looking at is the corporate income statement, because we've been studying things like stocks and bonds and things like that. So your last of the 6 big problems is your corporate income statement. And this is what it looks like. Again, like I have gone over everything individually, there are, the example of this is in Canvas. I also put the answer to this in Canvas, just in case you can't see the board too well. But I just wanted to quickly explain and walk through it with you. Again, I won't leave you on your own for any of these. So this is the last big thing that we're learning. I'm going to go over it very specifically. I laid it all out. But again, if you can't read this, look in your Canvas. Your Canvas will have the blank, which is what my problem looks like for Chapter 16's corporate income statement. And this is how we solve it. So it's up here. This is the completed version, obviously. So looking at the blank that I gave you in Canvas, it says our net sales were $215,000. That's listed here. Our cost of goods sold. Where did we find our cost of goods sold? That's right, costing. So our cost of goods sold is $60,000. All we're doing is subtracting those 2 numbers. So you literally subtract $60,000 from $215,000. That gives you this number, $155,000. That is your gross margin, one of the very key aspects of your corporate income statement. Then all we're doing is another simple subtraction. We're subtracting, that comes to $155,000. Then we're going to take the operating expenses and subtract $40,000 operating expenses. How do we get that $40,000? Your selling and administrative expenses together are this number. So you have to do a little addition there. So that in this case is $40,000. Subtract that from 155. So again, just another simple subtraction here. 155 minus 40 equals 115. This is what we call income from continuing operations before income tax. It's a big long label. I couldn't get it all in there, but I did in your Canvas. So we have that total, $115,000. Then we subtract the income tax expense. They give you that. It's $4,200. That comes to income from continuing operations. These are key figures because you're going to need those later on for determining your shares per, or cost of shares per. So then this next one, discontinuing operations, that is its own little calculation. This is the only one on the corporate income statement that may change based on your numbers. And here they give you this big long thing after the loss in this example. They tell you based on extraordinary gains and things like that. Only look at the end number that they give you on my example. That is $7,000. But pay particular attention because that is $7,000 negative. It's a loss. So if we have a loss, it's a negative number. So you have to put the parentheses around it. Then you have a $5,000 gain. Remember where we got those numbers from? We were discarding assets. Remember losses and gains? So this says basically if we discontinued a segment of our business, how are we accounting for that on the income statement? So again, my loss is $7,000. My gain is $5,000. So you remember what you do when you have 2 opposing numbers. You have a negative of $7,000. You have a gain or a plus of $5,000. So that would, you have to subtract those 2 numbers, which is 2,000, but it's not 2,000 positive, it's 2,000 negative. They have an overall loss. And that's what it's going to be like on your final exam. It will be, that's why I set mine up this way, so that you get used to this particular example. But if you had a loss of, in any other example, if you have a loss of 3,000 and a gain of 8,000, you would have an overall gain here and you would add. But again, in our examples, it's always going to be a negative for my quizzes and my final exam. So this is a negative number. So put the brackets around it, the parentheses around it. So now when we get to this income before extraordinary gain, we have to take the income from continuing operations, which is this number, 110,800, minus, this is a subtraction because it's a negative number, minus 2,000 gets you an income before extraordinary gain of 108,800. Then you have an extraordinary gain. So a gain is a positive, so we're going to add there. So we have 108,800 plus $6,000 gives you your net income of $114,800. And that is your income statement completed. So again, just to show you the particulars, again, you have the finished example in your Canvas session for you. But all this is a simple subtraction to get your gross margin. This is a simple subtraction to get your income from continuing operations before income tax. This is another subtraction here. We're going to subtract that expense. And then this, we have to do the math over here. And in our cases, it's going to turn out to be a negative. In your textbook, this might be a gain. If it is a gain, then add that number. If it is a negative or a loss, then subtract that number. Same thing down here. If this is an extraordinary loss, hurricane hit and we lost things, this would be a subtraction. So these are the only two times where it can go either way. But in our case, for this example, it is a gain, which means it's an add number here. So it's 108,800 plus 6,000 gives you your net income. That's as hard as this one is. For the second portion of it, it asks you for your earnings per share data. If you look at the top of this is James Corporation income statement. If you look at the top of the blank that I sent you, it says that we had 12,000 shares issued and outstanding. So for 12,000 shares, all you do is take these big headers and pretty much divide the numbers per share. So you have income, the very first one is, I don't know if you can see that very well, but again, I'll send you this data in Canvas. You have income from continuing operations, which that is this total right here, 110,800. Divide that by 12,000, gets you 9.23. The next number you have is discontinued operations, which is this number right here, discontinued operations, which is the math portion of it. This over here, you did your math. This is your result. So it's the negative 2,000. Remember, you have to keep this a negative number. Negative 2,000 divided by 12,000 is a negative 0.17, rounded up. The next one, the third one out of 5, is income before extraordinary gain. So income before extraordinary gain was this number right here, 108,800 divided by 12,000 comes to 9.06. Extraordinary gain, that's this number, 6,000. So 6,000 divided by 12,000 is 0.5. Net income, that's your final number, 114,800 divided by the 12,000, get you 9.56. Again, why are we using 12,000? Because there was 12,000 shares. So again, and you can find that data up at the top in the paragraph section of the problem I gave you. It says, assume for this company that they have 12,000 shares. That's the data that you have. So once you have figured out your corporate income statement and you listed all these, done all the math here, again, simple math, subtraction, 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 addition, and this is pretty much your equals. That's what we're looking for, is that net income. Simply take these totals that you find over here and divide by the earnings per share, which is 12,000 shares. So that's all you're doing. It's not as bad as you thought, was it? So you can play this video again and again to kind of get the premise of it. Keep it on hand because I am going to ask you to do a couple of the books problems going through corporate income statements. They're pretty much all the same. They have some different numbers that they use, and sometimes you'll have a loss and a loss, sometimes you'll have a gain and a gain, but it's all the same premise. So if you have any questions, get a hold of me. I'll make sure this video is on Canvas. I'll make sure your problem is on Canvas as well as the answer, so you can walk yourself through the process with the subtraction, equals, plus, anything that goes into building the corporate income statement. But that's as tough as it gets, and that is your final problem. So I will see you guys soon, and I hope you stay safe. Have a great time working through these. These aren't half as bad as you think. Bye, guys. Stay safe. See ya.